Hello, everybody, and welcome to New York Giants on SI's weekly preview. I'm Patricia Traina, senior editor, joined by Brandon Olson, senior analyst. And Brandon, this weekend, the New York Giants head to the Great Northwest to face the Seattle Seahawks. We're coming off a short work week. We're banged up, but the Giants are a little banged up. They don't have Malik Neighbors. Brandon, how does not having Malik Neighbors change the New York Giants offensive strategy?
Yeah, I think there's a few different approaches that the Giants can take here, but they've kind of shifted toward the Rams, 49ers, Texans approach of we have a couple of targets that we really want to get the ball and we're going to force feed them. And now you don't have one of those targets that you've been force feeding in Malik Neighbors, with Wan'Dale Robinson being the other one. I think that you've got the approach of feed Wan'Dale more and spread the rest of the targets out. You can try to just straight up take the Rams approach where they lost Cooper Kupp, they lost Puka Nacua, and they're like, that's fine. We're just going to spam Tutu Atwell if we want to. And that approach, I also think that you can supplement it by addressing your run game, maybe keep in another tight end and go more 12 personnel, which the Giants already do more than league average, but continue to do that. I think that you need to use Daniel Jones's legs more. I mean, I understand you're paying him almost $50 million this year. I think it's 47.5. And that's a lot of money. And you don't want to risk a quarterback that you're paying that much. But part of why you're paying him so much is because of his mobility. And so I think you need to use that more and hopefully just open up your entire offense. And I got to say, I feel like they're going to play ball control football at this point.
Speaking of the run game, the Giants list Devin Singletary as doubtful for the game. He's got a groin issue. If he can't go, obviously the next man up are Eric Gray, Tyrone Tracy. How did the Giants adjust for the loss of Devin Singletary, or do they need to really? I mean, or is it just, basically the offensive line just has to block better?
Yeah, I think that you can address it with multiple ways. First, you're lucky that the Seahawks defensive line, even if they're getting anybody back, still not going to be 100% healthy. We know how that works. If you've ever been even minorly hurt and not an athlete, you know that, it takes some time to get back to full health. So you get that advantage there. But I think that Tyrone Tracy adds a lot as a pass catcher as well. Of course, a former receiver at Iowa and Purdue prior to getting drafted by the Giants. Eric Gray, I think that one of the best run concepts in football right now is duo. Eric Gray told us this summer that that's his favorite run concept to work with. And I think that when you've got this offensive line, you keep an extra tight end in, you can really run duo and just spam it at the Seahawks defense at this point. And I feel like that has to be the approach. And again, using more of the zone read, using Daniel Jones's legs. I mean, there was 3 seasons ago, he was the fastest quarterback in the NFL, or he hit the highest miles per hour there. Use him. He needs to be able to be free to run. We've seen him do it occasionally. He needs to be used more as a runner.
Now, defensively, Brandon, the Giants pass rush, not as potent as I think everybody was expecting it would be. The Seahawks have a top 10 offense. What's the best plan of attack against that Seahawks offense?
I think that you take the approach that we can kind of talk about with the Commanders a few weeks ago of they're going to complete a lot of passes. They're going to throw the ball a lot and they're going to complete a lot of passes because they throw so many short passes. Ryan Grubb at Washington and now with Seattle has been taking the approach of we're going to throw the ball a lot. We're going to throw the ball short. And occasionally we're going to take some deep shots. And that's where you really have to respect and kind of fear DK Metcalf. I think that he's just incredible. Just a physical freak there. But you need to have your secondary come up and make tackles. Your linebackers need to be flying to the perimeter and come up and make tackles because Seattle's going for those easy completions that create yards after. That's football now. Like that's what football is. It's a lot of short passes, run after the catch. You have to come up and make those stops. And I don't know how much the pass rush is going to get in. I think that the Seahawks, even though they've been one of the most pass happy teams and one of the most dink and dunk teams, they've still given up a lot of pressures. Stone Forsythe, starting right tackle after George Fant got hurt. I mean, he's been giving up a ton of pressure. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's got the most pressures allowed from any offensive lineman in the NFL right now, and he didn't even start week 1. So that's with 3.5 games, really. You've got to win where you can and make some tackles and limit yards after catch if you want to just I feel like this is going to be one of those games where you got to force field goals, but unfortunately, that's also what the Giants have been doing offensively. So you've got to force field goals and actually score some touchdowns to win.
Brandon, when you look at this game, what concerns you most about how the Giants match up against Seattle?
I think for me, a lot of it is going to come down to just the Giants' offense. The Seattle secondary, Mike McDonald has done an incredible thing with Seattle's defense that so many teams try to do. Of we're not going to be blitz happy. We're going to sit in zone and make some stops and force you to make big plays on your own. And they've got a team that they can sit there and do that, and they've got really aggressive secondary players like Devin Witherspoon. He's weaponized. He's their most. He's the player that they blitz the most when they send a non-defensive lineman, because they have secondary players that can come up and make those stops. I do get worried that secondary of the Seahawks and just the defense of the Seahawks in general is going to come up and be really aggressive, and that the Giants might be a little too conservative at times, and then it's just going to force them into punting situations consistently.
And then finally, Brandon, I believe after this game, the Seahawks had the 49ers, I think, on Thursday Night Football. Is there maybe a possibility that given the state of the Giants and how they're on the downside, how they have injuries and whatnot, is it too much to maybe think that maybe this is a trap game for Seattle?
I certainly hope so. There's two approaches there of, well, maybe it's a trap game. Maybe they're looking forward to the 49ers, and they're going to kind of foot off the gas there, sleepy at the wheel, whatever term you want to use for it. However, they could also be looking at it as, okay, well, let's make sure we get this win because we've got one heck of a game coming up in a few days. So let's make sure we get this win. Might lose that one against a Super Bowl contender. So can't drop this game where, again, like you don't want to be on a 2-game losing streak, or you don't want to fall asleep anywhere. So I think there's two approaches. We can hope that they're taking the approach of overlooking the Giants team right now.
And what's your if you had to predict a score, what's your outcome?
I think the Seahawks win this game by more than a touchdown. And it's not even trying to be a jerk about it. It's just I think the Seahawks team is really good, and I think this Giants team is not. I feel like I was waving a red flag all off season about this Giants team. Me not being too confident in them, not having Malik Neighbors definitely hurts you here.
All right. He is Brandon Olson. He writes for New York Giants on SI. I'm Patricia Traina. I also write for New York Giants on SI. Make sure you check out all our written work. Brandon has an article on how the Giants offense can maybe adjust without Malik Neighbors, as well as other articles that you will want to check out, including a breakdown of the Seahawks offense, a breakdown of the Seahawks defense. I've got you covered from inside the locker room. And of course, we will have post-game coverage of the Giants at Seattle. And who knows, we could keep our fingers crossed. Maybe, just maybe, there's an upset in the making. Fingers crossed, right, everybody? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time here on New York Giants on SI.